Hello students, so we are going to continue today on the lectures on hypothesis testing for multiple regression model. We had discussed the idea of conducting a joint hypothesis test for two different parameters. So we had the null hypothesis was that two different parameters are both equal to 0. This was the null hypothesis versus the alternate hypothesis that either beta 1 is not equal to 0 or beta 2 is not equal to 0 or both beta 1 and beta 2 beta 2 are not equal to 0. So this is the alternate hypothesis. Now we had found out that if we actually conducted t-tests for beta 1 and beta 2 individually, and if we did the normal hypothesis test of looking at whether the t1 is greater than 1.96 and t2 is greater than 1.96, if we did this individually, then basically we will end up with rejecting the null hypothesis more often, and we will end up rejecting the null hypothesis when probably we should not even reject the null hypothesis, and hence our probability of committing a type 1 error will be higher than the than what we may start with thinking that we want to limit ourselves to a probability of committing type 1 error of only 5%, but we may end up having a type 1 error of greater than 5%. This is what we had discussed in the last lecture. So given this problem, we now introduce the idea of an F statistic. Okay, so this is a different statistic from our T statistic that we introduce here, and we will talk about this in this particular lecture. So the F statistic is a particular statistic which tests all parts of a giant hypothesis at once. The formula for the special case of the joint hypothesis beta 1 is equal to beta 1 0 and beta 2 is equal to beta 2 0 in a regression with two regressors. Suppose we are saying that beta 1 is equal to some hypothesized value and beta 2 is equal to some hypothesized value. The F statistic that we will calculate will be equal to half of t1 square plus t2 square. This t1 you are getting from your beta 1 is equal to beta 1 0, you are testing that hypothesis, and beta 2 is equal to beta 2 0, you are getting this t2 from that hypothesis. So t1 square plus t2 square minus 2 times rho hat t1 t2 rho hat of t1 t2, where rho hat t1 t2 estimates the correlation between t1 and t2, and this whole thing is divided by 1 minus this correlation between t1 t2 whole square. So now you may wonder that how can there be a correlation between t1 and t2. So if x1 and x2 are correlated with each other, as we know that if x1 and x2 are correlated with each other, correlation of x1 and x2 is not equal to 0, and if x2 is also a causal variable towards y, if these two things are met, then we know that there may be an omitted variable bias. So if if we had got some beta 1 hat without considering assuming that beta 2 is equal to 0, so we do not include x2, but we get a different beta 1 hat, this may have an omitted variable bias, and we get a different variable bias by not assuming beta 2 is equal to 0, then in these two cases the beta 1 hat may change. So 0 versus not 0 and beta 1 hat may change. Hence the beta 1s and beta 2s are correlated. Okay, for different values of beta 2s, we get different values of beta 1. So they are correlated. If the betas are correlated, then the associated T statistics may also be correlated. So if x1 and x2 are highly correlated, then the associated T statistics will also be highly correlated. So then the F statistic is just defined as this quantity, which is T1 square plus T2 square minus 2 times the correlation between T1 T2 divided by 1 minus correlation of T1 T2 whole square. Okay, so we will reject the null hypothesis that beta 1 and beta 2 are both equal to 0 if this computed F statistic is large. Okay, and how large is this? That also we will find out how we will determine. So the F statistic is stated as this. The F statistic is large when either T1 is large or T2 is large, and when the correlation between T1 and T2 is small. So these are both additive numbers, and this subtracts from that. So if the correlation between T1 and T2 is small, and if the correlation between T1 and T2 is small, then the denominator will also be small, because 1 minus correlation square, and then we will get overall the correlation, if it is small, then the F statistic will be large. So the F statistic corrects in just the right way for the correlation between T1 and T2. So the formula for more than 2 betas is nasty unless you use matrix algebra, so we are not going to consider there. So this gives the F statistic a nice large sample approximate distribution. Okay, so what is that distribution? So the large sample distribution of the F statistic. In a particular case, suppose T1 and T2 are independent. Okay, they are completely independent of each other. X1 and X2 are independent. So rho hat T1 T2 tends towards 0. That is, there is no correlation between T1 and T2. In that case, this particular term will disappear, and 1 minus 0 in the denominator you will have 1. So then you will have half times T1 square plus T2 square. Now, if you remember, when we tested individual T1 and T2, we said that when the sample is large, T1 is also distributed according to a standard normal distribution, and T2 is also distributed according to a standard normal distribution. You may remember this. Now, the square of a standard normal distribution, the sum of squares of standard normal distribution, is actually distributed according to a chi-square distribution. Okay, so there is a distribution called the chi-square distribution. So this is the square of two variables which are standard normal. Each of the sum of squares of two variables that are standard normal distributed is a chi-square distribution. Okay. So the average, the large sample distribution of the F statistic is the distribution of the average of two independently distributed squared standard normal random variables. The chi-square distribution, here again we are saying that the chi-square distribution with q degrees of freedom. So q is the number of t squares, the number of restrictions that you get, is defined to be the distribution of sum of q independent squared standard normal random variables. So this is just the definition of the chi-square distribution. In large samples, F is distributed as chi-square divided by q. Okay. So large sample critical values of chi-square by q are given like this. These are things that you just take it at face value. Okay, this is part of the whole hypothesis testing part of the course. So the large sample critical values of chi-square by q, if you have only one variable, then it is distributed, the 5% critical value is 3.84. So 3.84 is actually just, if you have just one variable, then the t statistic, associated t statistic is 1.96. That t statistic square, 1.96 square, is 3.8416. So that is just written as 3.84, and you divide by just 1 minus whatever that, there is no correlation, there is no other this, so divided by 1, so that is just equal to 3.84. If you have two restrictions, two variables that you are testing for, then again you do 1.96 whole square, 1.96 whole square plus 1.96 whole square, and then divided by 1 minus, suppose they are completely this, then you will probably find 3. Okay. So, like this you arrive at the critical values for each of these cases. So, this is the chi-square distribution. Now, computing the p-value using the F statistic. Now, the p-value is the tail probability of the chi-square by q distribution. This is just coming from your normal hypothesis testing. If you remember, there are two ways of doing hypothesis test. One is by looking at the rejection region, which is done by looking at the critical values. Okay, so you arrive at the critical values and then you reject the null hypothesis. And another one is by computing the the p-value, which is the probability of getting a value even more extreme, a probability of getting an F statistic even more extreme than the one that you have seen. Okay, F statistic more extreme. So, in Stata, how do you do this? You use the command test. In R square, in R you will have a different command, and you can use that command to find the F statistic, associated F statistic. In fact, in R actually, if you just do the summary of the model, it will give you the associated F statistic. So, so for instance, in the example that we have been looking at, the joint hypothesis that the population coefficient on STR and expenditures per pupil are both 0. So, these are both cases in which our null hypothesis is about the resources. You could use resources in hiring more teachers, or you could use resources in increasing the expenditure per pupil, but we are testing the null hypothesis that in either of these cases this will not result in any improvement in the achievement scores of the students. So, when you run this in Stata, then we have looked at all of these columns and we are not going to look at it again. The one thing that we are interested in is the F statistic. Now, the F statistic is associated with two different numbers over here. This first number is determined by the Q, the number of restrictions that you are talking of, and this second number is determined by 416 is determined by n minus k minus 1. Okay, so basically if you take you have 420 over here 420, and in the unrestricted, if you took all the variables, then you have 3 variables that you are taking, 3 minus 1, so 420 minus 4, that is 416. So, the F statistic is associated with actually 2 degrees of freedom. So, one is the Q and one is the n minus k minus 1. Okay. So, now we will talk a little bit more about, so this is how you will get your output according to the F statistic. Now, more on F statistics. Now, we can get a better intuition of what F statistic is doing, but suppose your errors are completely homoscedastic. We don't usually assume that errors are homoscedastic, but in case the errors are homoscedastic, then the homoscedasticity only F statistic is gotten using a simple formula, and we will talk about the simple formula. But before arriving at the simple formula, you need to run 2 regressions. One is under the null hypothesis, which is called the restricted regression. So, what is your null hypothesis? Your null hypothesis is beta 1 is equal to beta 2 is equal to 0. So, if you take your complete model and you have your total model is given as beta y equals to beta 0 plus beta 1 x1 plus beta 2 x2 plus beta 3 x3 plus u, right? Now, if you put beta 1 is equal to 0 and beta 2 is equal to 0, which is the null hypothesis, then both of these terms will drop out, and then under the null you will be left with y is equal to beta 0 plus beta 3 x3 plus u. So this is the model under the null. So this is known as the restricted regression. And the unrestricted regression, when you are the alternate regression, is your complete model, which is y equals to beta 0 plus beta 1 x1 plus beta 2 x2 plus beta 3 x3 plus u. Okay, so that is your unrestricted regression. What do you do with these restricted regressions and unrestricted regressions? We are going to talk about this in a little bit. So this will give you an intuition of what the F statistic is really looking at. Okay. So now what we do is we take these two models, we compare the fits of the two regressions, the restricted regression and the unrestricted regression, by how much your unrestricted regression the fit is better. Let us look at the particular case. So we run the restricted and the unrestricted regressions. As I have said before, the unrestricted regression is the complete regression where you include all the variables. The restricted regression is you drop those two variables where you are assuming that the associated parameters are equal to 0. So you drop those two variables. Now there is another way of referring to these kinds of models. So these are also known as nested models. So this model is nested within that. So if you take this as the total model, so there is a total model and then there are nested models within that. Okay, nested models are models which are you have dropped some of the variables in the complete model, and that model is nested within the overall model. Okay, so so this is the restricted population regression. Number of restrictions is 2. Why is the number of regression 2? Because you have assumed something about, or your null hypothesis assumes something about two different parameters, beta 1 and beta 2. And the fit will be better in the unrestricted regression. Why will the fit be better in the unrestricted regression? As we have discussed before, as you add more and more variables, your R square always improves. Okay, we had talked about this when we had introduced the idea of adjusted R square. So your R square always improves. So but how much will the R square improved when you include the other variables? How much has your R square improved? So basically what we are looking at, the F statistic in an homoscedasticity only situation. Again, I am reiterating that this formula is applies only when the errors are homoscedastic. So in an homoscedasticity only situation, R square unrestricted minus R square restricted. R square unrestricted is larger than R square unrestricted is greater than R square restricted. Okay, so R square unrestricted minus R square restricted, that is the improvement in R square by the total number of restrictions, that is the total number of variables that you have added in the R square unrestricted. So this numerator talks about the average improvement in R square per variable that you have added in your per restriction or per variable that you have added in your unrestricted model. And what is the denominator? The denominator, as you remember, R square unrestricted is the explained sum of squares. So 1 minus R square unrestricted is the sum of squares of residuals. That is, this is the part of the variance of y that you have not been able to explain. Okay, this is the unexplained variance in y despite fitting all your unexplained variance in y. Okay, in this case y is test score. Okay, so the unexplained variance in y divided by the total number of degrees of freedom that are left. Okay, so then total number of residual degrees of freedom, which is n is the total number of observations you have, and in the unrestricted model the number of variables you have added is k unrestricted, minus 1, that is for beta 0. So the average unexplained variance, so when you divide by the total number of degrees of freedom, you get the average unexplained variance. So in the numerator you have average improvement in r square, and in the denominator you have the average unexplained variance in your unrestricted model. Okay, so in some sense you are sort of comparing two squared values. In the numerator also you have a squared value, squared improvement in variance, explanation of variance, and in the denominator also you have a unexplained variance. Okay, so when you have this kind of both in the numerator and in the denominator you have ratio of two quantities which are both both are variances, you compare one variance with another, then you use the F distribution. Okay, so r square restricted, over here we know that the r square for the restricted regression, r square unrestricted, and the q is the number of restrictions under null. So this is an interesting, this gives you an intuition. So basically it gives you an intuition that if your F statistic is large, that is if your improvement, average improvement as a result of in the explanatory power of the average improvement in the model is high when you include both your variables, then you cannot reject the explanatory both the variables that you are testing, both the variables, then you cannot reject the null, or you have to reject the null hypothesis that neither of them have a decent explanatory power. Okay, so this is the intuition of the F statistic. So the bigger the difference between the restricted and the unrestricted r square, the greater is the improvement in fit by adding the variables in question, the larger is the homoscedasticity F statistic, and the larger is the probability that you will reject the null hypothesis. So for instance, if we take the example that we were talking about and we run the restricted model again, this is the restricted model and this is the unrestricted model. So the restricted model gives you these values of the beta 0 hats and the beta 1 hats. Or this is the beta 3 hat actually, and the unrestricted model gives you these values of beta 0 hats and this is beta 0 hat, this is beta 1 hat, and this is beta 2 hat, and this is beta 3 hat. When you run the restricted and unrestricted models, these are the things, but we are really interested in the r square of the restricted model, which is 0.4149, and the r square of the unrestricted model, which is 0.4366, and the number of k unrestricted is 3. Okay, there are 3 variables over here. So k unrestricted is 3 and the number of restrictions we are testing is 2. So then you put in the values for r square unrestricted minus r square restricted and divided by this. You just substitute these values over here and you arrive at a F statistic of 8.01. Now if you remember from before, the critical value of F for 2 restrictions at a 95% confidence level is 3. Okay, so since your 8.01 is higher than 3, you reject the null hypothesis that both beta 1 hat and beta 2 hat are equal to 0. But you will notice that the F statistic that you get from this particular formula is higher than the F statistic that you got from your software, which is 5.43. The software took into account that the errors could be possibly, your model took into account that the errors could be heteroscedastic. Okay, you used heteroscedasticity robust errors. So possibly there is some heteroscedasticity in your model, which is why your homoscedastic F is different from your heteroscedastic robust standard errors. So the homoscedasticity only F statistic summary. So to summarize, the homoscedasticity only F statistic rejects when adding the two variables increases the R square by enough. That is, when adding the two variables improves the fit of the regression by enough. If the errors are homoscedastic, then the homoscedasticity only F statistic has a large sample distribution, that is given by chi square by q. Okay, but if the errors are heteroscedastic, the large sample distribution of the homoscedasticity only F statistic is not chi square by q. We will understand what this is in a little bit. Let us first look at the F distribution. So now we are introducing, we have so far looked at different kinds of distribution. We have looked at the normal distribution. These are all continuous distributions. We have looked the normal distribution. We have looked at the chi-square, or we have introduced the idea of the chi-square distribution, even though we have not actually shown you a chi-square distribution. And now we are introducing the idea of the F distribution. Now, under the first four assumptions of OLS, which I will not reiterate again, but the first four assumptions of OLS and two more additional assumptions, which is basically that if the four multiple regression LS assumptions hold, and if UI is homoscedastic, that is, the variance of U does not depend on the x's, and if the U1s are the normally distributed. So they have constant variances and they are normally distributed. So you can see that we are making more restrictive assumptions. Okay, so the first assumption was expected value of UI given xi is equal to 0. The second assumption was that the observations are IID. The third assumption was that there are no outliers or no outlier values, okay, for any of the variables. The fourth assumption was that though there is no perfect multicollinearity, and now we are adding two more assumptions, that is, the UI is homoscedastic and the U's are normally distributed. Under these additional assumptions, then the homoscedasticity only F statistic is has the F Q n minus q minus 1 distribution. Now, what does this q and n minus q k minus 1 stand for? So basically, the F statistic has two different degrees of freedom are associated with an F statistic. Okay, let me just talk about it. Okay, so basically, for the F statistic, this is the degrees of freedom of the numerator in the F statistic, and these are the degrees of freedom for the denominator in the F statistic. If you remember our formula for the F statistic, the degrees of freedom in the numerator is q and the degrees of freedom in the denominator is n minus k minus 1. Okay, so the for each different values of q and different values of n minus k minus 1, you have a different F distribution. So q and n minus k minus 1. So you have to look at that particular F distribution which is associated with that particular q and that particular n minus q minus 1. So q is the number of restrictions and k is the number of regressors under the alternative. So the F distribution is to the chi-square by q distribution what the T n minus 1 distribution is to the n 0 1 distribution. So basically what we are saying is that for small samples, the F distribution, you use the F distribution, and for large samples you use the chi-square by q distribution. Just like for small samples you might have used the T n minus 1 distribution, and for large samples you use the standard normal distribution. So the F q n minus k minus 1 distribution is tabulated in many places. As n tends to infinity, the F q n minus k minus 1 distribution gets closer and closer to the chi-square by q distribution. So if as n tends to infinity, the two degrees of freedom will be q and infinity. Okay, the second degree of freedom will be n minus q k minus 1. No matter whatever k is, k will be much smaller than n. N is infinity, n is tending to infinity. So you will have F q infinity, and that will tend towards the chi-square by q distribution, and they will be the same if for q not too big and n greater than 100. So basically, if n is greater than equal to 100, we are assuming it is close to the chi-square by q distribution. They are essentially identical. Many regression packages compute p-values of f statistics using the f distribution. So this is a value given for the f q infinity distribution. The second degree of freedom is given as infinity. So for different values of q, these are different values of q, and the second one is all infinity, because we usually assume large samples. So we are just looking at the fq infinity distribution, and these are the associated critical values for different levels of significance. Okay, so for the 10% levels of significance, we have this. For the 5% levels of significance, we have already talked about this, right? 3.84, 3, and so on and so forth. So what you do is you look up, you compute your f statistic, and you look up these critical values and see if they are your computed f statistic is higher than the associated critical value, and you reject the null hypothesis. So to summarize, the homoscedasticity only f statistic and the f distribution, these are justified. The homoscedasticity only f statistic is justified under very strong conditions, stronger than are realistic in practice. In reality, you should use the heteroscedasticity robust f statistic, which will be churned out by your software. For n greater than 100, greater than equal to 100, f distribution is essentially the chi-square by q distribution. For small n, sometimes researchers use the f distribution. Okay. So to summarize, for when you want to test a joint hypothesis, the one at a time approach of rejecting of testing each of the beta parameters and rejecting if any of them is greater than 1.96, you will end up rejecting the null hypothesis more than 5% of the time. Even if you have a pre-specified tolerance of committing 5% type 1 error, you will end up having a type 1 error, committing a type 1 error of maybe greater than 5%. The heteroscedasticity robust f statistic is built into Stata by the test command, and it will be built into R and other softwares also. This tests all q restrictions at once. Okay. For n large, the f statistic is distributed as chi-square by q, and the homoscedasticity only f statistic is important historically. Okay, the homoscedasticity only f statistic was originally thought of, and it gives you a good intuition. In the next lecture, we will talk about control variable.